have several shared drives, one of them being our digital learning team shared drive. So the My Drive files should be those things where I've created the file, and they're personal to me. They're not for our team's benefit. I don't need to share them with the whole team. I'm the only one who would be using those files. So the thing with your drive is if you leave that organization, then those files are lost. And unless you transfer ownership, you don't have access to those files. Your team members don't have access to those files. So again, personal planning, draft, things that you don't want to share with the whole team would be in My Drive. And then your shared drive, that ownership of the shared drive is the team. So if one person leaves, then the files remain accessible to the team. Do those files disappear when they are updating our laptops? No, they would not. Updating your laptop would not have any effect on your Google Drive files as long as they're being saved in your Google Drive, and they should be.
And said that
so
David tried to raise.
You're going to use that shared drive for things that you're collaborating with team members, like unit plans, department resources, school. If you're at a school level, you may have a school team drive or shared drive, or a grade level shared drive, and that will help as well. Okay, sorry, I can delete that. I don't. Hold on. Let's do. Okay, I think I have muted that one, and I apologize about that. Apparently, I had my computer on mute, so I couldn't hear if anybody was talking. But that is when the difference between using your My Drive and your shared drive. Does anybody have questions about that, or you need to clear up anything on that? All right. So here are some best practices for naming your, okay, I do have a question before we get there. Are you able to transfer your shared files onto My Drive? So we will talk about shortcuts in just a minute, which will be the best way to do that. And again, we'll talk about that in just a minute. Adding a shortcut would be the best way to do that from a shared drive to your drive. So let's talk about some naming best practices. One of the things to do is adding numbers or even emojis, if you're able to, for priority. That allows that visibility. So using a 1 for the most popular folder that you use on a daily basis, or on a weekly basis. To use things like an emoji helps it stand out. Using your year first. So if you're putting a date in on your folder, then you want to use the year, month, day format. If you use the year, month, day format, then it will organize it in order. If you use month, day, year, then it's going to organize by that month. So just being consistent too, and making sure that you're consistently naming your folders, especially dated folders. Avoiding duplication. I know that this is one of the areas that I have a problem with, is that I have some duplicate folders. So I will have a main folder, maybe it's called ELA, or I'll have a subfolder called ELA, but it's inside of a folder called ELA resources. But then if I'm working on something else, I may have that same name for a folder. You want to make sure that you don't do that. You want to make sure that none of your folders have the same name, even if they're nested within other folders. And then try not to exceed 3 to 4 levels of nesting. This is another area where our shared drive gets to be kind of a mess. If we have too many nested folders, then it's harder to find it. Our structure's too complex. And so we need to try and work on where the folders would fit best, if that makes sense. So any questions about that so far? All right. So our next tip I was telling you was sharing a shortcut. Instead of sharing a file, you can also add a shortcut. So, I mean, instead of moving a file. So it was asked, are you able to transfer shared files onto your drive? This is the way to do that. You would go into the settings to the shared settings, and instead of hitting share, you're going to hit organize, add a shortcut. And what that does is that allows you not to lose access if ownership changes on that file. So you want to use that add a shortcut to the drive. All right, everybody know how to do that? And any questions on the shortcuts? Sometimes I forget how to do some of those things. I'm like, oh, that's right. I need to add a shortcut. All right, so I'm going to give you a few minutes, maybe not 5, but give you a few minutes to go to your drive and maybe make 3 new folders in your drive that you can organize other folders into or other files into. So just take a minute, look at your drive, see if there are some things you can organize or even rename. And I'm going to show you my drive real quick. All right. All right. So here you can see I have one file that I call discard. This is in my drive because we use our G drive or our Google Drive for our computer. I have a discard that I know that periodically I just need to go in and I need to empty that folder into the trash because it is just something that I needed temporarily. So that is one thing. And then I'll give you a hint of I've been trying to look at our digital learning shared drive, and these are my top things that I use. So I started naming them by numbers. I still have a lot of cleanup to do there, but that is the first thing that I started doing is naming those so that they would be at the top of my list to use. Did everybody have a chance to go in and look at your drive and maybe organize at least one thing. All right. Got some thumbs up there. Sounds good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the next thing. The next thing is that advanced search mastery, being able to find your files in less time. That is a good skill to have. So your search bar basics, I am going to try, let me see if I can split the screen, if it'll let me. All right. This one here. All right, I'm going to present something else. And let's see if it'll let me do this without it doing the infinity screen. We'll try it. Okay, are you able to see the Canva presentation and my Google Drive? Okay. All right. All right, so the first thing is in your search bar. The search bar defaults to searching are content and the file title. Those are the defaults. So this is your filter menu. You want to use that for some advanced features. So if you click on your filter menu, you can see the different advanced features that you have. Actually, I'm going to go back. All right, so one, you can search by type. This may be basic information. Some of you may already know this, and I apologize if you do, but if you don't know this, using that advanced search, you've got all of these. If you know it's a presentation, you can search for a presentation. Any of these above. You can also search by who shared it with you. If you're the one who owned it, if it's not owned by you, but you can't remember who shared it with you. And then if you know that it was a specific person, you can search by that as well. Has the words. If that file has the words, book list. You could search by that. You can also search by the item name, and that would be part of that title. So the has the words is anywhere in the file, where the item name is in that title. You've got your location that you can search for it. Your shared with me, my drives, visible, all these different locations. You can even search in your trash. Now, I believe the trash empties every 30 days. If you know that it was in a certain time frame, you can search by those time frames. And then we don't typically use the approvals and things like that, but if you do, those are things that you can look for as well. All right. Now, next, you can use your keyboard to actually type in commands. So instead of using that search feature or the filters feature, I could type and choose spreadsheet, type spreadsheet, and then that's going to pull up all my spreadsheets. So that is another way that you could do it. Maybe I want a template. I could type in type template. You can do the same for the owner. You want to use that owner, and then the ooh, my English is rusty. At semicolon or colon. That's a semicolon, right? Okay. Nope, that's a colon. Okay. See, semicolon has the little comments. Sorry. So you can use it to find files created by certain people. Again, you can type it in, or you can use those advanced functions as well. Those dates before or after, and using the creation date to find files. So that's a good way to do it. You can also search by starred or trashed files. All right, so I'm going to give you just a minute to try to search using those advanced searching functions. And for bonus points, if you want to star 2 or 3 of your, like highly used items on your priority list, star those. And then in the chat, share one of the search operators that you didn't know about. Oh, you love the approval feature. Yes, absolutely. And that is a great feature that we need to use more of as well, the approvals. Using type in the search. Yes. Shaniqua, would you want to unmute and tell us how you're using the approvals feature? Don't feel like you have to, but if you would like to, for others to hear.
Sure, I don't mind. So I currently work at a virtual school in Cumberland County. And so we are kind of like all over the place. And so like if I am creating a document that I want to send out to staff members, or if I want to send it out to students, I will actually have my principal approve it before I send the information out to them, making sure that it has the right jargon that she wants, or if it needs to be reworded, I'll send it to her and the assistant principal, and they both sign off on it so that it shows. And then also I use it to have documents signed. So
I love that.
Yeah, so I'll send out documents, or the principal will send out documents that need to be signed. The teacher will sign it, and it'll send a copy to us saying that the teacher signed it at this date, at this time, just so that we have a tracking record, so that, we are able to track all that stuff.
Absolutely, because that paper trail can be so important. So I love that, especially, for every level. That is a great feature, the approvals. Again, we need to use it more often, but I do love that. Yes, Renee, not nesting too much. That is definitely something we didn't learn in the beginning. I think when we first started with Google Drives, we didn't necessarily learn that. All right, so next we're going to talk about sharing and permissions. Again, a lot of this may be review, but I think it's important to talk about. So let's just talk about some of those sharing and permissions. So your first sharing, let's see if I have something that doesn't have any personal information. Here we'll do our PD offerings. All right. So the first sharing is the view only, and that view only permission gives your participants, gives your people the ability to view it, but they cannot suggest edits, comment, or change content. So that is your first sharing permission. You can do that for folders as well. Commenter allows them to see the file and add suggestions or comments, but they can't directly change the content within that file. Oops. And then editor gives them full control where they can edit the content, comment, they can share that file with others. So when do you think that you should use the editor function or the editor permissions? When you're working on a group, absolutely. Absolutely. So by default, when you grant editor access, that person can share that file with anyone else. So if you're collaborating, absolutely, you want them to have that editor access. You could also, there are times when you just want them to comment on it and you're the one that's making the changes. You don't really want them making changes on it. So you just want to make sure that in your sharing settings, you're using those right sharing features. Another thing to look at is in your settings, you can change it as well to where, sorry, I keep scrolling over there. People who can download, copy, and print, you can change that and uncheck those boxes there so that editors can't change permissions. You know, I could take that off. Now the editor is added to that parent folder, then they can change the permissions to the parent folder, but they can't change the permissions within the document. All right. Now, when you only want people added by email or a link, then you want to use that restricted, that secure access. And that is really good if it contains any sensitive data. Yes, people can lose their work sometimes with those settings, depending on those settings. But you want to make sure that restricted, if it's sensitive data, you only want to add the people who you want looking at it. You know, in my sharing settings, I don't want everyone to have access to that. I would then change this to restricted, and anyone with the, you know, who I've actually added would have that. There are times when you want to limit it to your school or your organization. If it's staff-wide resources, things like that, just people within your organization. And then anyone with the link means anyone can see it. If that link gets out there, if I share that link, then anyone can see that information. So you want to make sure that there's no sensitive information on anything that you have anyone with the link can view. Makes sense? Any questions on that? Again, a lot of it is review. So let's talk about transferring ownership. Why would you want to transfer ownership? If I create a resource for the team and I created it in mine, I may want to change the ownership. If I'm leaving a position, I may need to transfer ownership of documents before I leave so that before my account is deactivated, that information has been shared. Where's the restricted feature? Sorry. If you go in your shared settings, I go to share, and I click on the drop down under general access, the very first thing is restricted. And that will only allow the people that I've added here to be able to share that document. So right now I have Dave and Kay are editors on this document. Vanessa Batts is a viewer, but I also have anyone with the link as a viewer. But if I had it as restricted, Vanessa could view it, Dave and Kay can edit and share it. Okay, what is the difference between restricted versus locked? I'm not really sure. I don't know that there's a difference. And if somebody knows something different, please feel free to pipe up. The restricted has a little lock feature, and I think that they mean the same thing, and can be used interchangeably. If anybody has a different viewpoint on that, go ahead.
The restricted is who is allowed to access, but like lock is what changes can be made. So one is people, one is content.
Okay. There you go. So that would be within your document, right? Sorry, I didn't have the answer to that, but thank you, Dave, for letting us know. All right. So any questions about why you would transfer a document? Let's talk about how you would transfer a document. So I'm going to open this one back up. If I am in my, and it may not let me just because it's in a team drive, but if I am in my document and I want to transfer the ownership, here I'm the owner of it. I would click on who I want to transfer the ownership to, click that drop down, and I can click transfer ownership. Now, when I do that, then they have to accept the ownership of that document. So, or you can do the same with folders, just transferring the ownership. Let me make sure I'm not misspeaking there. If I wanted to share my discard folder right now, I have it restricted, but I'm going to add Dave on there. Here, I can make him an editor. And then I believe after I have added him to it, then I can go in and transfer that ownership. I don't believe it has to be done on a case-by-case basis, or document-by-document basis. So you want to make sure of sharing that, transferring that ownership when, especially if you're leaving that school, if you're at a specific school, transferring the ownership is good as well. Within Johnston County, you would be fine, but leaving it in the hands of that school would be a good thing so you don't forget to transfer if you ever left your district. Dave, yes.
Yeah, 2 comments on it. The folder should do all the sub documents underneath it, so you can do folder as well. But just 2 use cases where lessons learned, right? Well, one was a dozen years ago or more. People were brought in to build curriculum resources, and then the links were all put into documents, but over time, people left. and their accounts were disabled, and that document was no longer usable. And so we had to go into admin panel and recover it, change ownership, and it would happen a lot. So then we built the proficiency scales. We had teams of teachers, and what we did typically was we made all the starting documents shared out of the JCPS account, not even anybody's personal, so that it could be because we learned from there. But that's why you might want to transfer it. Curriculum work is a lot of times I think leaving, but a lot of times we do have collaborative curriculum work. In the end, if the district, it belongs to everybody, but it's held by one account, sudden life changes can make a very important document inaccessible to everybody.
Yes, absolutely. Anybody else have any good examples of why you would want to transfer that ownership? All right, let's talk about some sharing scenarios. So if you are sharing an incomplete assessment draft with your principal for review, you may want to share that as a viewer. And then you want to make sure that editors would be able to change permission, that is unchecked. This is an incomplete assessment. You just want your principal to review it. Maybe they can add comments on it, things like that. Another scenario for you, if you're sharing your master team meeting agenda with all team members who can add topics, then they need to be editors. But you may want to restrict their ability to share it outside. Maybe you only want that document to be able to be viewed by your team members and not shared. So then you're going to restrict that ability. If you're sharing a public permission slip template on the school website, then you're going to need to add that as anyone with the link can view, so that people outside of the organization would be able to view it and they don't have to be logged in. Now, one of the things that we see a lot is people asking us, hey, can you share this with me? I can't view this file, and they're not logged in using their Johnston County email. If you're not logged in and it's Johnston County only, then it won't allow you to do that if you're in your personal Gmail. All right, so we got a few minutes left, and I want to get into some storage things with you, but here's a quick question for you. When would you never use anyone with the link? Love my grammar there, huh? When would you never use anyone with the link? I think Dave, are you talking? Because
not talking. There's just tons of reasons.
Yes, absolutely.
I always start with have the restrictive and then only as necessary. Like it's everybody, but if it's not, and not for any nefarious reason or whatever, but it's just sometimes I don't want somebody to be able to change my work.
Yes.
Until it becomes finalized and goes out for everybody and not edited. Yes, IEP.
Yes. Student information, personal information. Yes, all of the above. Confidential information, definitely. So that is a good way. Default to restricted, like Dave said, and then only expand those permissions when necessary. I know it gets to be frustrating sometimes when you look at it and you go, oh, can they share that? That wasn't shared, but it's better to err on the side of caution. So we're going to talk about your storage. Now, if you're Johnston County, then you do have unlimited storage, so to speak, but you still want to clean up that storage because there are lots of reasons, but you don't have to worry about that as much as you do in your personal account. But let's look at some ways to look at your storage. So one, when you're in your drive and you go to storage, you can see how much is being used for your drive, for your Gmail. Now mine is probably high, for your photos. And you can look at storage by type. So I can look at videos that I might have, and it will tell me how much storage space those videos are using. That's a good way to go in and start getting rid of some files. You may have some old photos or old videos that you don't want saved on your drive. This is also true for your personal drive. So I'm going to go to my personal drive and show you my storage, which is terrible there. When I look at my storage there, like it's being a little slow, I can see, I have a specific amount. And so then it'll give me that storage bar, or I can pay for more storage in my personal. But same thing, I can look at file types to see what I need to get rid of in my personal drive as well to free up some of that storage space. So I'm back over to my shared drive. And then another tip for you would be that working offline, setting up that working offline in case, the internet drops or whatever. In order to do that, you're going to need to go to your settings, and I have it. I thought I had the exact steps. Settings, and then you're going to scroll down, and here's the offline, and that is, you can check that if you want to be able to access any of your recent documents while you're offline, and that way you can create them, open them, and edit them. And then once you get back online, it kind of updates that information.
So what we found that to be very crucial for years ago was when we were, this is before everybody kind of had the one-to-one, we were working on building out one-to-one in a feeder pattern. And one of the issues was internet access at home. Like, so many people would go home to a little more rural areas and they just didn't have even a way, even if they wanted to buy internet, sometimes the access points weren't built out there yet. So one of the steps became, at the end of the day, was anything you need to do, hook in and make it offline. And that was a crucial step to be able to have take home devices in one-to-one. So something to keep a workaround of the I don't have internet access thing. That was a lifesaver.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that you can go to your settings there, go to settings again, and then scroll down to where it says offline. Any questions on that? All right, so here's our key takeaways from today. I think I can close this out and make this bigger for you. There you go. Use those shortcuts. And instead of moving a file, use that shortcut feature. Okay, so if you're at the community pool with your kids and there's no Wi-Fi, but you want to do work on the computer, yes, on specific, you want to make sure that that is clicked when you're on Wi-Fi. And then once you're off Wi-Fi, you can add those edits at the pool, go back home, and it's going to sync, and you'll see those edits on there still. So you can use that. Absolutely. Any other questions for us? All right, so make sure you're using that shortcut feature, restricting those permissions, and just grant them, like don't throw them out like confetti to everyone. You want to make sure you should you archive your Google Drive every school year? I know that we send out some Google cleanup information every at the end of every year on good ways to clean up your Google Drive and things like that, to keep it organized. I don't know about archive. Dave can probably speak better to that than I can.
I was checking it out, but I can speak. Google Classroom, yes, right? Okay. We auto archive those, but not Drive. Like I use the same, go back to the same folders every year. Like I'm gonna pull it out. And I guess you could put them in an archive for last year's stuff and know, but unless it was like specific to that year's schedule, like you might want to put, administrative stuff from 2026 to start 0506 to start 2067 and have that same file structure. But if it's activities that I'm going to continually reuse, I want that front and center. Some of those might even be, like you said, like label it 001, 002, 003, like we're going to put right at the front of my drive. So you can archive some things, but I think it'll just become frustration if it's stuff that you reuse every year.
Yeah. And I like that Shaniqua said that she has a school year, like a folder in her drive for the school year. But now I'm with Dave. If I'm going to use it, if I'm using lesson plans, I'm probably using them year after year. So I'm not going to have them in a year folder. I'm probably going to have them in a standards or an objective folder or something of that nature, which is what I did. And when I was in the classroom, I had them by, I think it was specifically by standard of what I was teaching. All right, so as you go, your challenge is to organize like the top levels of your drive, using those numbered folders. You can set a reminder to practice using the typing in, type, and those search operators. Another thing you can also do is you can color code your folders. And I didn't have that on here, or if I did, I skipped through it really fast. Color code them. Color coding your folders helps, especially if you have classes. Let's say you've got, 4 classes. Maybe you want your first period to be green and your second period to be yellow and your third period to be red, fourth period to be blue. That visual there is very helpful when you're organizing your drive. I wanted to share this quick reference guide. This is all of those words that you can use to search your drive. So type, owner, title, the before, the after. So that is a reference guide. You can click on it, or you can click on the image and use that quick reference guide. And then before you leave, if you will scan this QR code, it will bring you to a document. And what I didn't do that I normally do is I also link that document. So I will do that as well. That document will give you the attendance codes and information, feedback, your instructions. If you're out of district and you need a certificate to upload, let me find that. I'm gonna find that file real quick for you, and go ahead and link it as well, because sometimes scanning a QR code is not the most beneficial thing. So let me find that. I think that is it right there. All right. On it, you will see, and it is not just for out of district participants, it is for all participants. And I have that with anyone with the link can view. But on it, you have the feedback form. If you are out of district, if you will click here and give your feedback. If you are in district, you should be able to give that feedback in KickUp. Your attendance code, if you are in district, is right here. It is linked for you. It is not wanting to be nice. Sorry. I'm struggling today. Sorry. It is Tuesday. Here, I will put it here. But it also has some follow-up information on that document as well for you. All right, there's my KickUp code for anyone who is in district. I'll give you just a minute and I will put it in here too. G92S. And if you registered or you filled out the form, I tried to go in to the to KickUp and add you. All right, here is a link to the document that gives you all of the information on it as well. The link to the code. The code is in there. And we also give you, so typically it would be added to our YouTube channel. Again, this one wasn't recorded, so therefore it won't be added. The presentation will be added. And then if you want other opportunities for learning this summer, you've got the digital learning PD, and it has all of our Grounds for Growth sessions, but also other summer learning opportunities that are available for you as well. If you want to stay up to date on what is happening and what we have to offer, you can join our instructional technology blog, and you can always check out our digital learning website. So lots of information on this document. Again, out of district people, if you need a certificate, you will click on that template link and make a copy and create your, add your name for your certificate to be able to get the CEUs for today. Any questions, comments? I'm so glad that you all were able to join us this morning, and I hope that you were able to get at least one thing that you can use today as you're working with your Google Drive folders. All right, thank you guys for coming. Oh, you want to color code? I'll show you how to color code your folders. So if you go in to your, there you go. If you go to your folder, you can right click on the folder, go to organize, and you can choose your folder color there. Oh, that would be wonderful, Denise. Thank you so much. That would be great.
And like projects, like colors helps.
Yes. Yes. So, all right. Thank you all for coming. I'm going to stay on for a few minutes just in case anybody has any questions. And if not, then hopefully we'll see you at our next session. I believe is that, which one is that? Let's see. Engaging students with podcasting is next Tuesday, I believe.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Now we can only hope they give the organize with AI button down to, us lower accounts than the pro AI.
All right, you're unable to see the document when you click on the link. Let's see what it is doing.
Is it not opening?
I think it gave the attendance code. Let me share that again. Copy the link. All right. Let's see. Denise Tant, I believe is how you say it. Did that work? Or do I need to
Let me try it again and I'll there you go. Thank you so much.
okay. I must have shared the wrong thing. I
I
apologize.
kept clicking it and I'm like, that's not what I'm trying to look at.
Yep, there you go. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. I'm going to go ahead and end the call unless anybody has anything else.